Morning. The morn hours are precious. Spend them on that which matters to you.
This is Xingqiu. You guys, like usual, are madmen and voted for Xingqiu, and I am gonna butcher this guy's name too many times. A whopping 27,000 votes. And this guy had 43% of those. That's pretty gnarly. Being that that's the case, this one took me a little bit longer because I actually have been wanting to build Xingqiu for quite a while, and I haven't really had the resources or kind of the gumption to do so. But I took a few days to gather up my Ascension materials and all that good stuff. I got him up to, Ascension level 4. And after doing some pretty deep research, not like insanely deep, but some pretty deep research, I feel like where I currently sit with him is probably a decent position, and I don't really need to put too many more resources into him. I just need to kind of, fill out some more artifacts, but hey, that's the nature of the game. What we're going to do is we're going to go over all about Xingqiu today, and we are going to kind of give you guys a glimpse into the world and how to build it. Just so that you're aware, there is a huge document that you can, kind of comb through to learn some more information. It's going to be where I'm getting 90% of the information out of this video anyways, so I will leave that down in the description below, just in case you want to check it out. Really quickly, I'm setting a personal goal for myself to hit 15,000 subs before the end of the year. If you guys want to help with that, that'd be cool, but if not, that's cool too. Okay. So talents. Let's actually start out with our talents here. So our normal attack is actually called Guhya. I don't know. I'm gonna butcher a lot of stuff today. Normal attack performs up to 5 rapid strikes. Charged attack consumes a certain amount of stamina to unleash 2 rapid sword strikes, and the plunging attack plunges from midair just like every other character, does AoE damage upon striking. One of the things that you'll quickly figure out about Xingqiu is that it's not he's not very great if you have him out and he's doing his normal attack. His main bread and butter is using his E and his Q. So I have yet to even put any resources into this, but I have maxed out these two. But yeah, you can kind of see how that works out here, how all those stats break down. Next, we actually have our E, our elemental skill, Guhya Sword, Fatal Rain Screen. So Xingqiu performs twin strikes with his sword, dealing hydro damage. At the same time, his ability creates the maximum number of rain swords which will orbit your active character. The rain swords have the following properties. When a character takes damage, the rain swords will shatter, reducing the amount of damage taken, increases the character's resistance to interruption, and 20% of Xingqiu's hydro damage bonus will be converted to additional damage reduction for the rain swords. The maximum number of additional damage reduction that can be gained from this way is 24%. The initial maximum number of rain swords is 3, and using this ability applies the wet status onto the character. One of the interesting pieces about this is basically whenever you use this ability, it's going to generate a number of swords. So you can see at Constellation level 1, you can gain another sword. So basically, instead of 3, you'll end up with 4, which is, that's cool. So notable things here about this ability, it does actually apply the wet status to the character. Unlike Barbara though, this actually only applies for just a little bit of time. Based on notes here, it says 0.3 seconds. So it doesn't actually keep the wet status on the character, which is really nice. Whereas opposed to Barbara, you're going to be constantly under that wet status. It's one of the things that I've been struggling with at the higher levels in some domains where I use Barbara as my main healer, like my burst healer, and applying that wet status and going up against a cryo abyss mage is pure cancer, and I just want to literally throw myself off a bridge. And it's pretty nice that you have a resistance to interruption as well, so that you can basically keep doing what you're doing, and when an enemy hits you, you're less likely to kind of be interrupted from your attack. Like if you're setting up to do charged attacks or something like that with another character, this increase to interruption is what's going to help you continue those. Whereas if you get hit, sometimes especially at the higher levels, I've noticed that as I'm getting hit, I'm getting interrupted a lot. So it's kind of frustrating at times, but Here you can see the breakdown of how this works. You can see the 2 skill damages. Now remember, mine's at level 6, so this is going to be a little bit different from the way that yours looks, but you can see the 2 hits there, the damage reduction up to 25%, the duration is 15 seconds, and cooldown is 21 seconds. Next we have our elemental burst, which is the Guhya Sword Rain Cutter. So initiate rainbow blade work and fight using an illusionary sword rain while creating the maximum number of rain swords. So basically, Rainbow Blade Work, your active character's normal attacks will trigger consecutive sword rain attacks dealing Hydra damage, and rain swords will remain at the maximum number throughout the ability's duration. So this is like super, super cool. After you pop this, any normal attacks that your active character performs, you're going to have these swords that are flying into the enemy and dealing Hydra damage on top of whatever damage you're already dealing. So it's literally just a ton of extra damage on top. And you can see how this breaks down the sword rain damage there, the duration, the cooldown, all that good stuff. Now, one important thing is you'll notice Hydra damage, Hydra damage bonus. All that stuff kind of revolves around the Hydra damage, so keep that in mind because we'll talk about that here in a second. Next, we have Hydropathic. When a rain sword is shattered or when its duration expires, it regenerates the current character's HP based on 6% of Xingqiu's max HP. So that was kind of what I was talking about earlier about some like pseudo kind of healing. He doesn't really do great at healing. It's only 6% of his max HP. So it's not like it's an insane amount of healing, but I mean, every little bit helps, right? Next, we have Blades Amidst Raindrops. So Xingqiu gains a 20% Hydra damage bonus, which is just amazing. Flash of Genius. So when Xingqiu crafts character talent materials, he has a 25% chance to refund a portion of the crafting materials used. So that's pretty good. You know, I say a lot of those are throwaways, but that one's not that bad. Now let's move on to our constellations here. So at constellation level 1, we are going to have the Secret Mermaid, increasing the number of maximum rain swords by 1. I'm pretty sure the Q ability, since it spawns the maximum number, it's going to increase the total amount of damage that is possible as well. Next, we have Rainbow Upon the Azure Sky. So at Constellation Level 2, extends the duration of Rain Cutter by 3 seconds and decreases the Hydra resistance of enemies hit by Sword Rain attacks by 15% for 4 seconds. So literally this is reducing their Hydra resistance by 15% is insane. Some enemies are only going to have a 10% resistance to elemental attacks anyway, so reducing this by 15% means they have a negative 5%, which means they're going to take an extra 5% on top of what they normally would, which is pretty gnarly. That's pretty good. Next we have Weaver of Verses, so increases the level of Guhya Sword Rain Cutter by 3. Not bad. Evil Soother, so Constellation level 4, throughout the duration of the Rain Cutter, the damage dealt by Fatal Rain Screen is increased by 50%. So that's a lot. Next we have Embrace of Rain, so at level 5 increases the level of the Fatal Rain Screen by 3, maximum level is 15. And at Constellation level 6, activating 2 of Rain Cutter's Sword Rain attacks greatly increases the damage of the third. Xingqiu regenerates 3 energy when Sword Rain attacks hit enemies. So this is insanely good. So basically at C6, you are able to just output an insane amount of damage. The way that the pattern apparently works, because of course I don't have it, looking at other people's notes here, the order is 2 swords, then 3 swords, then 5 swords, and then repeat. So basically the way that's going to work is you're going to have 2 swords hit on the first attack, 3 swords hit on the second attack, and then 5 swords hit on the third attack, and then it just kind of goes back and repeats, which is, that's crazy. Now, when it comes to weapons, so best in slot weapon is easily going to be the Sacrificial Sword. The reason for that is so that you can basically have this energy recharge. There are, of course, other weapons that have energy recharge on them as well, and you can use those as kind of like your buffer, but basically energy recharge is what you're going for. And the fact that after damaging an opponent with an elemental skill, the skill has a 40% chance to end its own cooldown, can only occur once every 30 seconds. This is insanely good. The fact that you can pop 2 E's back to back and get all of that energy really, really fast. If you build up your energy recharge to, 180, 200%, you're basically going to be able to guarantee yourself 2 elemental bursts really close together, which is kind of the whole point of running Xingqiu anyway. So best in slot weapon, Sacrificial Sword by a landslide. If you don't have that, You could actually run the Skyward Blade. Now, it is actually going to have energy recharge on it as well, but that's all fine and dandy. If you have that, you can run it. It is going to give you a little bit extra attack, but ultimately, your biggest deal is you kind of want that that extra cooldown reduction from the Sacrificial Sword, but got to work with what you got. Crit rate on here is going to be increased by 4% and gains Sky Piercing Might upon using an Elemental Burst, increases movement speed by 10% and attack speed by 10%, and increases the damage of normal and charge attack hits by 20% for 12 seconds. That's, automatically, like, knowing how Xingqiu works, that's automatically worse. But it is, it's definitely an option. The passive on it is not even what you're after. Honestly, you're just after the energy recharge. What's crazy is you can't even get the same amount of energy recharge out of the Skyward Blade than you can out of the Sacrificial Sword. Sacrificial Sword is going to top out, in the 60s? Let me double check that. 61.3, whereas the Skyward Blade is going to end up hitting 55.1. So yeah, you could also go with the Favonius Sword, also going to have energy recharge on it. Crit hits have a 60% chance to generate a small amount of elemental particles, which will regenerate 6 energy for the character, can only occur once every 12 seconds. That one actually sounds better to me than the Skyward Blade, simply because it is going to help generate energy after you do a crit. It also tops out at 61.3% energy recharge. It's still got a comparable situation to the Sacrificial Sword. I think personally, I would prefer the Favonius Sword over the Skyward Rose, but that's just me. And last but not least, we do have the Skyrider Sword, which is actually a 3-star weapon. So taking a look here, energy recharge again is our secondary stat. Our passive is going to be when using an elemental burst, it gains 12% increase in attack and movement speed for 15 seconds. So that one's okay. It's a little bit more focused on your burst doing more damage, but it's only going to hit 52.1 energy recharge at maximum. So I guess, it's definitely a lot easier as far as budget options. I would say that's definitely the most free-to-play friendly. Sacrificial Sword definitely best in slot. Skyward Blade, if you just happen to have it and don't care to put it on anybody else, maybe you can throw it on Xingqiu. Otherwise, definitely try to get a Sacrificial Sword. Now, when it comes to artifacts, this one's gonna be kind of highly debated, and you guys, there's always these people that end up arguing in the comments, and that's fine. There's a million different ways to build these characters, and that's all good. But let's talk about a couple of different options here. So highly coveted, one of the best sets that you can go with is actually 2 different sets. 2 pieces of the Exile, because it has energy recharge of 20%, and 2 pieces of the Scholar set, because it has energy recharge on it. So the idea behind this set is literally pumping Xingqiu with as much energy recharge as possible. If you can get his recharge in the 200s, or even close to 200, between 180 and 200 is kind of what you're really shooting for. But if you can get in that range, then you are pretty much set to be able to do your burst as much as possible. Especially if you have your Sacrificial Sword on there as well, then you can kind of use that to gain a ton of energy, use these artifacts to gain a ton of energy, pop off your skill twice to get all that energy really, really quickly, pop off your Q. Massive damage, easy peasy. Now, you also could go with a slightly different set here. If you wanted to go with the Instructor set, you could. So it increases Elemental Mastery by 80% at the 4-piece. You would, upon triggering an elemental reaction, increases all party members' elemental mastery by 120 for 8 seconds. So it's been brought to my attention that is worded incorrectly. So I can't really comment on how good this set is going to end up being, considering that it's worded incorrectly here. From what I remember, it only increases your active character, the character that has this set included. It's not actually all party members. If that's the case, that's still fine. The biggest deal with this set is that if you can get your energy recharge high enough outside of your artifacts, then using this 4-piece set is going to be very, very powerful, because having all that elemental mastery, you're going to have a ton of elemental reactions on the field anyways, and that's just going to increase tons more damage with all of the reaction damage that's going on anyways. So the Instructor set is very, very good if you can make use of it. But your main focus with Xingqiu is getting that energy recharge up first. So this, if you already have the weapon to get there, if you already have the substats to get there, if you already have the goblet, or if you already have the artifact, the timepiece, the sands, if you already have that with energy recharge, if you can basically already get the energy recharge elsewhere, this set works perfectly fine. Another option that you could go with is actually the Noblest Obliged set. So a 4-piece set is what you're honestly shooting for. Elemental burst damage up 20%, and using an elemental burst increases all party members' attack by 20% for 12 seconds. This effect cannot stack. So the idea behind this is, again, centered around already having enough energy recharge to not need the set bonus from the other 2-piece sets to end up getting this. But basically, using your elemental burst is kind of the whole point of Xingqiu anyways, and it's going to increase the attack of all party members by 20%. So as you switch off onto your main TPS, you're going to end up doing tons and tons of damage outside of the already insane amount of damage that Xingqiu's elemental burst is going to grant you. So a 4-piece of this is pretty gnarly, plus it's going to add more elemental burst damage to yourself and then give everybody else damage. So definitely cool. Now, if you can't get up to the point where you have enough energy recharge and you need to run, like myself currently with my current situation, I don't have the artifact substats to really get there. So what you can do to get yourself up to that, 180 to 200%, use one of the two between the Exile or the Scholar set. So basically you just get the 20% energy recharge there, and then end up using a 2-piece of the Noblest Obliged to get the extra elemental burst damage. Then once you work yourself into a situation where you have enough energy recharge, you can kind of focus on a different set of artifacts if you please. If you want to go with, the full 4-piece of the Noblest Obliged, or if you want to go with the full instructor set, however you want to do that, that would be completely up to you. But just to kind of get yourself up to that point, you could definitely split it to where you have the plus 20 on one and the Noblest Obliged on the other. And then there is also worth mentioning this other set that kind of focuses a little bit more on healing. You could end up running Maiden Beloved if you want to, for the character healing effectiveness plus 15%. So it is going to give Xingqiu a little bit more healing effectiveness whenever one of his brain swords breaks. And then you could just run the Exile set or the Scholar set for another, little bit of energy recharge. That one is, a weird kind of set. It's, in my opinion, it's pretty specific, where you are kind of setting up to not do as much damage, but a little bit more healing. You're sacrificing a little damage for a little bit more healing. If that is the way that you want to play Xingqiu, then by all means, go for it. Now, no matter which set you prioritize, no matter how you mix and match your artifacts, just make sure that the main goal of Xingqiu is to get that 180 to 200% energy recharge. However you're going to do it with substats on your flower, your feather. If you need to run a sands or a timepiece that has energy recharge on it, that's perfectly fine. Once you get your recharge that high, then you can start focusing on a goblet that has hydro damage bonus. That's very, very important. And then, you could work on crit rate, crit damage, depending on how you kind of need that to work out. If you already have decent substats for crit rate throughout all of these other ones, then crit damage makes sense on the circlet. If you don't have, or if you have crit damage on, these other ones, then crit rate, of course, just mix and match the best you can. And then if by chance you don't need the timepiece to have energy recharge on it, then definitely focus on your attack percent, because that's going to be super important, and try to go for attack percent on your substats as well. But since that's all RNG, sometimes you just got to take what you can get. Now, when it comes to talent priorities, how should you really focus on these? Well, I kind of touched on it earlier, but this normal attack, you don't need to put any resources into it. You're hardly ever going to actually have Xingqiu on the field doing normal attacks. You're going to switch into him, do his E, gain the energy, switch off to DPS. If you have enough to do the burst, you're going to fire off the burst, and then, carry on doing damage with another character. You're never really going to be using his normal attack. It's not even like some characters like Jean, where you have to use their normal attack to do some healing. All of his healing is based around the rain swords anyways, so don't really worry about his normal attack ever. Definitely focus on your Q is probably the best thing to focus on first, and then focus on your E, and then after that you should be squared away. So let's go check out some gameplay from Xingqiu here. We're actually going to go fight the Fireflower guy, that one. You guys know which one I'm talking about. The Reg is fine. So our main focus again is going to be to try to use our elemental skill as much as possible, and then fire off our elemental burst as much as possible, so that we can just kind of deal as much hydro damage as we can right here. So let's just go ahead and hit this. So we didn't get the cooldown. It's unfortunate. So we'll do some normal attacks here just to kind of show you. As you can see, we're not doing hardly any damage. Come on, we need that skill. There we go. And we did get the cooldown the second time. So I'm out of stamina. Pop this off so that we can get our Q. Pop the Q, and then we can just go to town here. And you can see how much just extra damage it adds in. I don't actually have the best of artifacts on him. He's very, very cool to play with. Can we get the cooldown, please? No, we didn't get the cooldown. He adds a ton of damage. He adds so much extra damage into a fight, it's insane. So I guess really quickly, I'll show you what I was rocking on him just so you can kind of get an idea of what you could be dealing damage in terms of what you may have, or you may have, a lot better than I do. But I talked about how I split between the Exile and the Noblesse Obliged, so I'm getting an extra 20% energy recharge there, and an extra 20% on the Elemental Burst. My Goblet is a Hydro damage bonus, and it has mediocre substats. Crit damage is nice, attack is nah, defense and HP are not really important. HP is not the worst on Xingqiu because his healing does scale off of his HP, so not a horrible thing, but this is the only Hydro Cup that I have. Only freaking Hydro Cup that I had. And then after that, I just have some, mediocre stuff. I've been working on other people's artifacts, not really working on this guy's, but Feather, somehow I had this, already leveled up. I don't know why. And then, that. So not like an insane build. I mean, I definitely have a lot more ways to go in terms of building out his artifacts, but I'm still kind of working on Vinties. But as you can see, my energy recharge is almost at the 180 mark, which is really, really cool. Not quite as high as it needs to be, but it doesn't have a long ways to go. And our Hydro damage bonus is at 54.8. As soon as I get another Hydro Cup, as long as it's a 5-star, I will be throwing that one away and putting it into that one. But anyways, that's Xingqiu. He is one of the most complex supports that you can have in the game. Like, I don't know, he's just one of those characters that has so much depth to him that if you really sink some time into him, you can get so much value out of him. And that's kind of why I wanted to build him, and I've been waiting to get him for a while. I only pulled him a couple of weeks ago, I think. So definitely one of the cooler ones to play with. But anyways, guys, that's pretty much it for Xingqiu. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you so much for watching. I will be posting another poll. It looks like the next one will include a 5-star. I'll probably put Venti back on there because he's the easiest 5-star for me to show off, since he's one of the ones that I actually have put work into. But I'll put him on there, and then I'll keep throwing Diona on there. I'll throw probably Kaya and Sucrose, since they were the other 4-stars that didn't get voted for in this video. But that's going to be it, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out. Thanks so much for watching. As always, remember, if you want to sub, I'm trying to hit 15,000 before the end of the year. If you want to help out with that, cool. If you don't, I completely understand. Otherwise, I'll post another poll and you can vote on that one, and I'll see you in the next video. Okay, bye.